an 11-hour day. Hey, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. This Tuesday night. You know what we do? Cocktails and Christ, where we break bread and drink of the lovely vine of Jesus Christ. We love you some Jesus over here. We're Jesus lovers, and you can be one too. Just accept Him and be baptized, and you will be one of us too. All them crazy people with crazier faith and crazier beliefs. Yeah, those are Jesus lovers. They believe big and they go big or go home. Go home, go home. Tonight we're talking about what's her name? Zaresh?
Yep, that's her.
Haman's wife. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I've been
So
looking
we
for.
met her in the beginning of this story. She didn't get invited to the party. So when y'all don't get invited to the party, don't go do no backhanded scheming and conniving and get your husband involved. Just say, you know what, God, that was party was not for me. I was where bones are not provided, dogs are not invited, like my grandmama would say. You catch it on the way out. Uh, every party's not your party. So she doesn't get invited to the party, obviously, and she gets in her feelings. Like, sometimes we do. How come they having a party? How come I didn't get invited? How come they doing that and they didn't tell me? How come they didn't give me that hookup? You know, how come they
Mhm.
didn't let me in on that little secret? Some stuff is just not for you, and it's just not for you. But we see in this story when it wasn't for her, she went and did the stuff that was like, okay, I'm gonna go home and tell my husband. He big shot. He calling the shots. Okay, hubby, she didn't invite me to the party. Can you get rid of her, please? Off with her neck. Off with her neck. And so she goes for the wife of the king. And then her husband, he's not the most wisest of men because he follows along and never questions her. And they make these grandiose plans because he gets in his feelings too. He was already in his feelings. So, both of them on the bandwagon. Misery loves love company. They both on that miserable bandwagon. One wasn't invited to the party and one didn't even like the Jews at all. But if they knew who the Jews' God was, if they knew who Israel God was, they wouldn't even be on that bandwagon. But, God, everything works together for his good. So you see her come. She tells her husband. Her husband gets his big old ego up in a roar, and he's doing stuff, and he's seeing stuff happen, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this in the bag, babe. I got this. I got your back." He's like Will Smith at the awards, just slapping folks for their wives.
I can't with you.
Yes, and so Haman makes this grandiose plan on how he's gonna get rid of the Jews, and she's right there, just egging him on. You should put a big old pole in our yard, and put Mordecai's neck on it. But just put his head on it. Build that thing, because tomorrow you'll have victory. Did she talk with God? No, she sure did not. That was her plans being executed. And guess who got executed? Her husband. Sure did.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Yep. Yep.
You
You
know,
know.
it's funny though. You said misery loves company. And the funny thing is her name literally means misery.
Y'all better go find out what y'all name mean. Please go find out what your name mean.
Don't Sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And sometimes you just have to make a decision. Like you're not gonna be what everybody has always called you. But she decided to be that.
Shit.
She took her husband
One
out.
little party. You tell me one little party, one little missed invite to the party. There was other parties you could have been invited to. Maybe she doesn't like you. Maybe
So
she don't know you like that. Maybe you're oblivious.
but from everything I've read, it wasn't just about the invite to the party. It was the fact that, they were trying to increase their station and she had her sorcery abilities and stuff like that. So she was already thinking she was more than what she was. And so for her not to be invited, it was like, okay, one, I'm not invited, but like, do you really not know who I am? Like you don't see
Obviously, because you didn't get an invite to my party. Obviously, what? It's my party and I do what I want. Like, obviously, your abilities and powers they had no position. They had no power. They were powerless.
But they did, if you think about it, because you
Yeah.
said she wasn't talking to God, but God was talking to her. Because before she told Haman to go put up the pole and hang the Jew on it or
Not wise
whatever,
idea.
she told him everything. Like David had or Goliath had this happen, and they tried to kill Joseph, and this is what happened. And she went through the line. Like you can't cut off his head because the Pharaoh tried to cut off Moses' head. So she went down the line and it's like basically all of this stuff. This is how God has protected him. The only thing nobody has tried yet is this thing. So we're going to take a last ditch effort to go against God, and we're going to hang him on a tree. Well, all those years later, we saw how that worked out for the Romans too. So putting a man on a tree, like testing God, like no, that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, what was she thinking? You had all the
Obviously, she didn't have the prophetic enough.
right, because she was using it for the wrong thing, and that's the thing. Like, there are lots of people that have the gift of prophecy, but they use it for the wrong thing. At which point, it becomes witchcraft.
Witchcraft. You know, my daughter said that to me the other day. She was like, Mom, do you realize that some of the stuff the Christians do is borderline witchcraft? I say,
Yeah.
yes, girl, all the time. All
Mhm.
the time. All
But
the
they will
time.
do it in the name of God and convince you that it's correct.
You know, that is not good, y'all. That is not good. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If he ain't sent you, don't call on it.
Yep. And the other thing you were talking about her, like, why is he listening to her? He had, according to the Midrash, he had 365 advisors. So he had one for every single day of the year. And the one he chose to listen to was his wife. Outside of all the 365 that you had,
I
you
mean,
chose
he was doing the right thing. He was doing the right thing and listening to his wife because, you know, that's that bedroom talk.
I was about to say, that's what Keith calls that snapper got you.
That's never got you. Well, that's never got him to the death.
Yeah.
To the death. And that's where, you know, you have to be, you know, yeah, he may have 365. And you saw that with the king. He may have all these advisors, but your words reach a little bit far. And that shows you the power of us women having, like, yeah, he may have 365, one for every day of the year. But listen, look who he listened to, and that there's nothing wrong with him listening to his wife. Because she's supposed to have his best interest at heart. And she did have his best interest at heart. She did. She didn't have all the whole story. She didn't have everything that she needed to have. She didn't have the wisest counsel. She didn't seek the word. Right. She sought the word. No, let me take that back. She sought the word. She was trying to plan out God's plan. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, this is how God does stuff. I've seen it happen. Let me go read the Torah for you. You hear, here, and here. Yeah, that's how God. But God is the architect. You can't predict what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm. And just because, you know, he does something doesn't mean he's going to do the same thing the same way.
Come on now. We you know, it's him.
Count on God to do it exactly
the same all over again. Like it's just not in her, all her wisdom. And she and if you look at the story, her plans have been working so far. Mm-hmm. So she can trust her knowledge. She's like, oh yeah, I got that. I got that. Yeah. Until she didn't get it. She got a husband head on a pole. Mm-hmm. They were celebrating too fast. Mm-hmm. He who laughs the best and laughs the longest. But she was laughing. You was laughing at the beginning, like, oh,
too early.
Too early.
But there are a lot of people that have the wisdom and they have your ear, and if you don't have discernment to go with it, it will catch you up every single time. Because Haman, like, you're sitting at the right hand of the king. You're invited to like all his stuff. You're like his chief of staff. And you're listening to this woman that is one, yeah, she has apparently certain powers or whatever, according to you. And then she's got some kind of power over you, but she doesn't have the hand of God on her. Now, if you look at all of the text and all of the different things like the Midrash and the Torah and all of that stuff, when you look at the stories, it doesn't have anything to do with, I said the Torah, but the Tanakh. But they don't have anything to do with God. They are not Jews. They are Persian people. And the Jews are a challenge to them because they are so powerful just by sheer existence. Mm-hmm. So there are people, you're going to walk into places and spaces where there are people who your sheer existence is going to rattle them. And they're going to find a way, whatever that way may be, to try to get you out of that place. Doesn't matter if it's right or if it's wrong, if it's justified. They don't care. You're a threat to their position and
their sheer existence and their position. You're right. But if she knew who the Jews were. She knew who, and you see it like, oh, you know who God is. That you thought that you could predict them. So you acknowledge him. Mm-hmm. In some ways, you acknowledge him. Mm-hmm. And that's what people have to be careful. Like when you're looking at these stories, she acknowledged God. Right. And those who have your ears will acknowledge God just to get you to where they need you to be. Just to have you, because sometimes you hear people give you advice and they give you from the word and you're like, wait a minute, back up now. That don't make no God, come in here right quick, Jesus. I need you to check this. I need your eyes on this. Like, double check this for me, because I'm not, that one doesn't sit right. I always say it doesn't sit right with me. Something about that just doesn't sit right with me. And it's a tug of war, because you're using the word, but you're not using it in the context, and you're not using the word how it was meant to be used.
Right.
So you're trying to manipulate me using the word of God.
How often does that happen?
Very, very often, people. More often than you think.
Yeah.
More
But
often than you
going
think.
through the book of Proverbs last month, like 31 days of going through Proverbs and just seeing like all these conversations that we've had over the last, what, seven months now?
I'm like, yeah.
This one is like the most prominent throughout the book of Proverbs, because like Proverbs 14, there's a verse in there that says, a wise woman builds her house, but folly tears it down with her own hands. And that is this entire story wrapped up in a nice, neat bow. Like, had she not opened her mouth, somebody else could have given him a better way to handle this situation, that they both could have still moved forward. But he allowed her and his pride to come together to create an explosion.
But 300, you have that many wise counselors around you. You're telling me you didn't run this idea by none of them? You didn't get nobody there an opinion from your wives.
So here's the question for you. If you and your man are having a conversation and somebody comes up to you and says, that's not a good idea, are you going to listen to him? Or are you going to go back to your man and say, so-and-so said this isn't a good idea, so he can convince you why it is?
Well, here's a thought. If the question comes, if I thought it enough, if I can't discern it through enough and it snips on me that I have to go back and bring it, then there's something in it that has some truth to it. It's something that it's crossed my mind to think about.
Yeah. But how many people are going to take that extra step and think about it?
Yeah, because if I bring it all the way back to the person, Nisha, that means there's something about that was said that I'm pondering on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with you. It's like when somebody tells a joke, there's a little bit of truth in everything. So they can say, oh, I was just joking, but you meant it on some level.
Yeah, on some level, it had some truth behind it. And I needed, it's enough for me to raise a caution sign or raise an eyebrow and say, okay, maybe I need to pay attention to that.
Exactly.
Know your counsel. I got some good ones.
Lucky us.
But, speaking of recklessly, so I'm going to tell y'all a little tidbit that I learned this week. Don't speak recklessly, people. Please don't. Make sure you have God behind you and the whole army behind you before you open up your mouth and say what is already stated. If God says who you are, you don't need to say it. You don't need to repeat it. You don't need to put it out there for everybody to hear. Like, don't do it. Because he's the only one that will raise you up. He will put you at that high table. You don't need to put your position out there to get to the high table. And you see her doing this. She was trying to use her position to push herself to the high table and push her husband, up further than he needs to be. And my grandmother always say, the higher the monkey climb, the more he's exposed. And that's that one going out the door. Grandma always said that the higher the monkey climb, the more he's exposed. So the more you draw light to yourself and draw attention to yourself, and not even in a good manner, because every attention ain't good attention. You got to uphold that. And now you asking for more people to look at you. You're asking for more people to scrutinize you. And that meanwhile, God a plan, man a plan, God is wiping. That's what Jamaican people say. Meanwhile, man is planning, God is wiping. So any plan you have, make sure God is in the midst of it. Make sure he's in the midst of it. That you're not just executing your own out of your own free will and, your feelings, because feelings ain't facts. We learned that.
Amen, Lord.
Feelings will
get stuck out in the middle of the ocean or the middle of the desert.
And that wilderness ain't no bad boy joke. But you see her feelings not being factual. And then she uses everything use all her humanly powers to execute a plan that ended up getting her husband killed. So women, when you're out here pushing this man, if he's at that job, he can build a career right there. If that's all he can do in his ability to, get on your knees and pray. Don't
Mm-hmm.
push them out here to do extra just because you want to be the Joneses, because you want to be invited to the party because you want
Yes.
status.
Right.
I'm sorry, stop. Let's stop doing it because we're killing our men.
Yep.
We're killing our husbands. We're killing the boyfriends. They don't exist in the Bible, but whatever. We're gonna say,
We
because
know.
it's there. We are build them up, take them where they are, and help them. Go to God for them, like literally be before God for this person, because you see where Haman's wife, instead of, even if he had the hatred in his heart for the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
you could have literally counseled this man into keeping his position rather than giving up his life.
Right. And if you think of some of the women that we've talked about, like going back, think about Abigail and how she stepped to David and was like able to offer that wise counsel. And she was able to say, you know what, this isn't the best way to handle this. How about we try something else? And she was able to diffuse the situation. Or we've got Eve, who was over here, and she had her little identity crisis, but at the end of the day, when she was created to be his sidekick, his helper, and his covering. Like, in some aspects, she was there to pray for him on those points where he's weak. Those are the points where you're supposed to step up, not supposed to like pull on and tug that thread until you can get him to do what he wants. Like in this area, baby, I got you covered. And she
And
didn't
it's
do that.
about, honestly, Misha, it's about being content where you are, who you are, where you are, where God has placed you, and who God has placed in your life. If
Exactly.
this is who you believe God sent you, He's gonna help you build that foundation. Like, for us to look at the Joneses or look at what somebody else is having, be like, babe, I want that. So now you got to go work out 10 jobs. Like, no, that's not fair.
No, not at all. And then too, like what you're saying, going along with it, if you're content, doesn't mean you're complacent, doesn't mean you're not moving forward, doesn't mean you're stuck where you are. Content means being able to be abounding, or be abased. So knowing
It's
that richer or poor, y'all are in this together, as opposed to, you know what, I need you to go keep grinding a little bit harder, push yourself out there a little bit more, and if you don't come home at the end of the day, I'm gonna
but
be
then
okay.
what does that grinding look like? Like, the next series we're about to get into is relationship series. Let me just break this open for y'all. This is tying
Mm-hmm.
into building better kingdom relationships, building better relationships for men and women. I don't care what age you are. You have a lot of young couples and they're not succeeding because, it's almost like we're tearing each other apart, where one is pushing one to go be, like something else. And it's kind of, you see this in this little relationship, you see this in this little marriage, where they're both not wise counsel for each other. They're just kind of
Yeah.
feeding off each other's hatred till it came to the demise of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's teaching you about the relationships. Like, you see, this is a relationship story from the beginning, where the marriage is here and he listens to outside counsel who tears him away from his wife. And then now he's up in his head because he's like, why did I listen to these people? But I already opened up my mouth and, I talked big and my chest was poofed up and, I can't go back. And
Right.
then you see him finding another wife who was patient enough, and, she didn't hog him. She waited to be seen. But then when it was time for her to step up, she stepped up for the people. And then you see this wife over here running her down mouth all day, every day, with not good counsel. And then you become the demise of the relationship.
Right. But again, what have we been talking about? Opening your mouth at the right time and saying those right words.
Timely speech.
Wise counsel has a lot to do with timely speech, because there are a lot of things you could say to somebody to make a situation better, to educate them, to whatever, but it's not always the appropriate time. And then
Mm-hmm.
there are other things that you could say, and you may be right, but it's not even necessary.
Like when the guy's complaining and he's just, sometimes you just got to tough it out and listen to it. Yes, all the right things to say. Come on now, we're wise like that.
Mm-hmm.
But is it the right time? When he's down on his luck, is it the right time to talk? When he's up in his anger, is it the right time to feed that ego?
Right.
You got to know when to say what you need to say. And sometimes you got to recognize when you're making reckless speech, like Zaresh.
Right. And there are times, like you said, you don't need to speak at all. All he needs is someone to listen to. He
Mm-hmm.
wants to feel heard and he wants to feel seen. Sometimes that's all they need.
That's it. And the powerhouse. But we're about to get into our next couple of series is going to be relationship series. Drop us your topic. What do you want us to
Yes.
talk about when it comes to relationship? Because Nisha's coming from, she's knee deep in marriage. She's been with the same person since Whoopi killed Philip. Love Keith. And I'm coming from that place where, you know, we float around the ether. We float around in the ether. But I'm learning as this transition go, even with the relationship with God, even relationship with others, learning how to have the balance.
Right.
How to balance this thing, how to be a helpmeet,
Mm-hmm.
how to come with that help that the person needs, and knowing when, to be that voice, when to just be quiet and listen. And it's just like God, he knows when to listen and when to just shut us down, like, cut it out, we ain't going there.
Right. He will tell you real quick, that's enough.
That's enough. Let's pull the plug from you. But you see, in this story, the Esther story, go back and read it. Go back and read the Esther story. We may touch on Ruth and Boaz. We may touch on Adam and Eve. We may go through these series of relationships. I don't know how long the relationship series is gonna last, y'all. Definitely, I want to hear your topics to talk about. I want the topics.
Yes.
Give me your topics. Something that is even bothering your relationship that you want resolved, or you want to hear what we think about it. You ain't got to take my word like for the holy word, because you got the Bible. You got the holy, King James, whatever, NIV, whatever version. But, and I would love for some couples who've been together short time, long term, to be on this series with us. I'm asking for you guys to jump in, chime in. I want to make it interactive, but the next series is relationships, because too often there's too many single women out here, not enough, single men in Atlanta. Y'all might be somewhere else, but also couples who are trying to be like the Joneses, trying to have that Beyonce and Jay-Z relationship, trying to have what they see emulated on TV. And it's kind of like, that's not your everyday life. For better or for worse. And you see it in this story. Yeah, she rode out with him. She talked reckless, and she rode out to the end, which was his end. At least she ride or die. He died, but I'm just saying. She didn't back up on him, but like, well, I didn't tell you that. Off with his head.
But after he died, she's off. She is off, like out on her own, out in the wilderness. She's got to take care of herself. Like she's knocking door to door, begging for food just to survive. Man. So it's like you went from this place where your husband is the king's right-hand man to now you're begging for food, all because you opened your mouth.
And you're consistent, not one time, but then, she's in that place where she's opened it so much and seen things come to pass that she believed that was the truth. Mm-hmm. Because that's, this has happened. So, I have enough proof. Like, you keep seeing things happen, but then you also got to check yourself. Like, wait a minute now, am I on the right path?
Right.
Not because things are happening, that means you're on God's path. Like, not the plan that he laid out for you. No, sometimes you get tossed, like, going over in left field over there. Like, you was going down a path and it's like, nah, that's not what I had for you. Let's just do a roundabout. You're going to go over here.
Yeah.
We know that too well.
Lord,
we know that too well. But look at Esther's story. Look at Esther from a different light now. Now you can look at Esther from a relationship light. Now you can look at Esther from timely speech, because Esther did make a timely speech. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She had to make her timely speech. She was shut out from the beginning, and then she had to know when to intervene, and she sought God before she even intervened, because her counsel came and said, hey, you need to go say something, but she didn't. She went and said, God, what do you want me to do?
Right. And that's another difference between her and Mordecai and Haman and Zaresh. It's like, yes, he gave her advice, but she went to God. Zaresh gave Haman advice and he didn't ask anybody. He was just like, okay, let's do that.
365 people, and you didn't seek to ask anyone else.
Not one.
Really?
A list of things to do that day.
Really? Wow.
They even went out together to find the perfect tree. All shopping trips are not good shopping trips. Sometimes you just need to window shop and keep it moving.
She wrote, till death do us part. That was her vows. Till death
Well,
do us part, and death did do them part.
she held up her end of the bargain, didn't
She
she?
did, and she wrote or die. So if you made reckless speech and there's consequences, write it out, sweetie. Don't even back up. Don't even backtrack. Wherever it takes you, just go there. I'm just saying, like she did that. Like if you're gonna look from one
Yeah.
positive from the story, that's what she did. She talked recklessly, and he ended up dying. And she didn't back up on him when she realized. She just kind of wrote it out like, oh, okay, this is my fate, and this is what I have to do, and and whatever the consequences, you just gotta, own up to it. Put your big girl panties on and ride it out.
Yeah. And there's
Mhm.
nothing anywhere that says she did actually take responsibility. For all we know, like she could have still been blaming the Jews. Like this is their fault that my husband is dead. Because it was their fault that he was in that position in the first place to have to go out and kill this man.
Really, it wasn't the invite to the party. No.
I mean, I think it was, the whole thing. The invite to the party just like put her in a place where she was like, you know what? Everybody's on my list.
Everybody's on my hit list. Off with their heads.
There you go.
Off with their heads. I'm the queen.
Literally.
Off with their heads.
Off with their heads.
She got rid of the first queen. She tried, like, it was just too much, way too much talking, way too much words getting thrown around in the middle of the night when we pillow talking. Pillow talking is that time where they're more receptive. So use your words wisely.
Please do.
Because you can tear somebody down in a second and build them up in a minute.
But once you tear them down, it's very much harder to build people back up, especially in the eyes of your husband. If you have that girlfriend that did you wrong 5 minutes ago and you're on an emotional hack, don't take it to your husband because he will never look at her the same.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Not even me. Y'all.
No, I'm not talking about Charlotte.
She's always shady trees. No, that ain't me. That ain't me. I'm always the advocate for people. For some other reason, I am the advocate. Advocate for people. I don't know why.
That's not even it. But there are people that will say things and do things, and you know who this person is. And yes, it may tick you off. And so you'll be high in your emotions. And of course, your husband is the person that you go and talk to. And I realized, you don't need to, what, that's one thing my dad told me when we were sitting. He took me to dinner the night before I got married. And he was like, okay, I need you to understand everything that happens in your marriage, your mother does not need to know. She doesn't need to know if y'all have an argument. She doesn't need to know if you turn right and he turns left, because the minute you tell her, it's going to change
how she sees him, their relationship. It does. It definitely, speaking from experience, it definitely does.
Right. And so he's like, I understand if you need to have a conversation, just choose your words wisely when you do. And so I have taken that to heart, like the entire time. You have to choose your words carefully in order to maintain the balance of all of the relationships around you. One relationship often affects another. And if you want to keep them all, you need to know how to deal with those relationships.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. I have good counsel on the other half of the screen. Like, great. Like, listen, I don't hold no bars. That's my ride or die right there. Oh, the other way. That's my ride or die, whichever way you're looking at it. Like, yeah.
That way.
Whatever way. That's her right there. Like,
yes, most definitely.
When there's an issue, oh, I only know one person. Yeah. Let me go holler at her for a second, because when I lay it out there, I'm gonna get. To be honest,
you know why? It's because you and I have those rules established. We've been through that point where it's like, okay, we've both blown up and we've said, all the things, and then we realized, okay, that's probably wasn't the best thing to say, but it wasn't necessarily geared towards one of each. But we came to an agreement that we have an hour. So in that hour, you get all the venting out, and then we'll come back and we'll talk like we got some sense.
No, sometimes we ain't got no sense, because you don't want to get wrapped up in your emotions, like Haman's wife or Zaresh. Like, you don't want misery to love company. Like, no. Misery, somebody has to shut the door to misery and be like, nah, stay outside for an hour. I'm gonna come back to this door in an hour, and when I come back, you need to have your happy face on, and we're gonna deal with this like grown-ups, and then you can come in my house. But you need to have that. You don't need to have misery love company. You don't need, if he's miserable at pillow talk nighttime, you don't need to be miserable too. Because all you're doing is fueling the Haman fire. We're going to start calling it the Haman fire.
As opposed to other fires you may feel.
burning bush, those are God fires. But
Right.
this Haman fire, you don't need to fuel none of those. You don't
Mm,
need to have a Zaresh and a Haman relationship. Like you don't, it leads to death
it
of
does.
Haman.
Yep.
You really don't. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
By your own hand or by your wife's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so if he's fueling, okay, I hear you, sweetheart. Yes, babe. I
Hmm.
get it. Awesome. Okay. Yes, you. Okay. Okay. Yes. But you.
Okay, but let me just say this because I got caught in this the other day with my youngest. Make sure that the words that you're saying, yeah, okay, I agree. All of it, they go with the flow of what the conversation.
They're saying
Because
you
I was
don't.
like, oh, that's horrible. And Aiden was like, are you even listening to me? I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, what did I say then? I was like,
I really wasn't listening. Yeah. Oh, really?
So please make sure you are at least like really seeing and hearing them like be present when they need you.
Which Haman should have told his wife when she got upset about the party. Be like, girl, I'm the right hand to the king. You can get invited to any party. You can come to the party with me. Why are you worried about her little party? Like,
Right.
we locked in with the king.
But she didn't see it. It was that one slight. And sometimes it just takes having a bad moment on a bad day that just flips
Okay,
people.
we only have bad moments. We don't have bad days.
Apparently you're wrong because Mrs. Ayrshire had a very bad day, week, month, and then the rest of her life.
Season, turn it into a whole bad season.
Because she chose to make it more than a moment.
She had a bad moment. You never have a bad day. Unless you take that bad moment and repeat it every hour of the day, then you will have a bad 24 hours out of the day.
Yep.
Jesus died and he never said he had a bad day.
Go figure.
Go figure. He never said he had a bad day. You're like, today's gonna be a bad day, y'all. Don't come around me because I'm about to die. He never said. He sat and ate with them too.
Like, the time has come.
And he never said like, don't come over here today. We're not eating none and breaking no bread because I'm about to die. And y'all fools gonna be, you people are gonna be all over the place. Like, no, we're not doing that today. Can you come back tomorrow and check?
I'm sorry, I won't be here tomorrow, but maybe give me 3 days. I'll be back.
Yeah, like he never said that. Like, oh man, nah. Even when he was up in the garden, he never said, nah, man, don't stay around me, man. I'm gonna be in a bad mood. Like, don't hang around. He was still encouraging them. Yeah. So
that's a whole nother relationship that I can't wait to talk about because it's like
we're gonna be in a I don't know how long the relationship series is gonna last, y'all. I don't know how long it's gonna last. This should be fun. Y'all get to hear my take on some relationships because I am cut dry, and get ready to cut, folks. They did to my boss at work. Oh man, he talked reckless and got hammered. Don't be talking reckless, y'all. What is stated does not need to be said. Okay, stay there. Don't be no Zaresh. Misery doesn't like company, and don't be nobody's company on the misery bandwagon, and don't be nobody misery bandwagon. Yep. Especially your husband on pillow talk. Like when it comes to pillow talk, let's just use our words wisely. Timely speech.
Please. Okay, so just real quick, I have an announcement about this particular month. It is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
I thought you was gonna say it's Black History Month, but okay.
Oh, duh, it's February. Yes, everybody knows it's Black History Month.
Well, not everybody does it. Well, it's Black History Month, but yeah, if you didn't see the billboard, if you didn't see the colors, if you didn't see anything, it's Black History Month, y'all, and it's also
Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
Yes, so it's about bringing attention to 1 in 3 children or teenagers are in abusive relationships, and that's children, youth, adolescents, whatever, from the age of 12 to 18. 1 in 3. And of those, about 65 to 85%, the numbers keep switching around, don't actually talk to adults about these situations because they don't feel comfortable with it. Way too many children have lost their lives to these situations. So during this month, I'm just asking everybody, take the time, talk to your children, talk to the young women, young men around you. It doesn't matter if they're like actual children or if they're just your particular children. But talk to them about healthy relationships and what they should look like and respect within the relationships before they end up with their own Haman and Zaresh situation.
Don't be no Haman fire around here. No. It's funny you should say that. My daughter didn't really tell me kind of about the one she was in until after she broke up with the person, and maybe like a year or two later. And I was just like, why you didn't tell me? Because he would have been outside that door like as quick as you snap your fingers. I would have snapped his neck. But
Yep.
we don't do violence, y'all. We don't do that.
But here's the thing: when you're in those particular kind of relationships, you have this. One, you're a teenager and you're invincible, so nothing's going to happen.
It's a bubble.
Okay, you can handle it, right? And then there's the flip side of it where it's like, I know he has a problem, but I can change him. This is a good person. He loves me. He would never do anything to hurt me. Oh, that didn't hurt. That particular situation, that was a one-off situation. It's never going to happen again. He promised. He loves me. There are teenagers have these big thought patterns that never really connect.
They never really connect till you get to adult years and you're like, wait a minute, that was nearly done. And even in adult years, you look back and like, what was I thinking?
Right. And I can look back now and it's like, okay, that day that I was dangling up against the side of a car with my feet like dangling in the air and cops riding by and nobody stopped, that was on me because I didn't tell anybody. My parents had no clue. To this day, they still don't know half the stuff I went through. But it's because I didn't have the conversation because parents.
When you think they're going to make you break up, because that's just the end of the world right there. Breaking up is the end of the world. Yeah. So you realize it's really not the end of the world.
No. It was probably the best thing that ever happened once it finally came. But it's having those conversations.
And sometimes you're not the parent, you're the aunt. You are that person that they come to. And you also have to respect timely speech in that manner. That, you have to use discernment and wisdom, what to say and what not to say, so you don't lose the trust in that teen that does come to you. Check on their relationship. Don't, check on the relationship. Check on the status of that other person. Check on the status of your child. Be a wise parent, because sometimes your child's dating and you don't know why you don't like the person, but you just don't like the person. Make sure they spend time around you so you can see how they interact and stuff like that. Like as parents, we have so much power and so much ability to prevent stuff like that from happening to our children, because that's not where you want them to be. Teens supposed to be your fun, carefree years. I always, and it's probably not wise counsel, y'all, so don't take my words like biblical. Oh, no. I always tell my children, like, high school is the time for you to live and be free. Getting bogged down in some serious relationship that's not for high school years, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
Not at all.
It's about, I'm not saying go be sleeping around, but I'm just saying explore. It shouldn't be where, we're planning on getting married. Like, no.
Well, you see where I am. I married my high school sweetheart.
I told you, she's been with the same dude since Whoppy Kill Phillip forever and a day. It's just your years. You're never gonna get time back. You're never gonna get years back. Right. So, let them be free. Let them know that, yes, this is great, that you develop relationships and you want it to be long-standing. You want to trust and develop all these wonderful foundations for your life. But at the same time, it's not that serious.
It's really not. It's not. I heard Michelle Obama once say, she was talking to a group of girls and they were talking about relationships. And she said, if I had been worried about who liked me and who I thought was cute, I wouldn't be married to the president right now. So it's like, you got to figure out, pay me now or pay me later, one way or the other. You got to decide what you want.
Yeah, your high school years have a lot of pressure, especially between 9th and 12th grade year. There's a lot of pressure on it. You're just getting into high school, and you're worried by the end. You're worrying about getting out and going to college. You're going out and looking at the rest of your life, and so worrying about who you gonna. Is it like, nah, it ain't that serious. I'm sorry.
It's never that serious.
You got the rest of your life to date. I promise you.
Yes. So please talk to your children and just make sure that they understand, what it is that they want.
And point out what abuse looks like to them, verbal or physical.
I'll talk to you.
Point out, and mental, like point out the things that they should stand on, like Vashti, like their principles and stuff. Like, don't get swayed or carried away because you're trying to fit in or get somebody to like you. Like, you're gonna, go against your principles that your parents raised you on, or stand your ground.
Yeah.
Plenty of fish in the sea, sweetheart. You young and you just got popped out the factory. Trust me. You got plenty of decades and years to go. Not that serious. But we thank you for joining us. We are going into the relationship series next week. I can't wait because we start on Valentine's Day. God is always doing something wonderful.
He
We
is.
start on the day of love. Well, I don't know if it's the day of love, really and truly. It's a Hallmark day.
Considering that it's a day based on a actual massacre.
Yeah, no. But that's where we're starting out. In the Western world, we think of it as the Hallmark. All the teddy bears, Walmart is full of them, and candy, and Ferrero Rocher, and Russell Stover, and all Palmer's, and all of these wonderful candies, Hershey's, kisses, and hugs, and whatever. Cards, deck the hall. If you don't remember, next week is Valentine's Day. So just in case you forgot, we're going to be here to remind you. Get your cards and get your little specialties and novelties or whatever it is. We thank you for joining us at Cocktails in Christ. You know what we do. Break bread and drink of the lovely wine of Jesus Christ. If you want to be one of us, you could be one of us.
You could.
Accept him as your Lord and Savior. And if you're close to a church, go get baptized. Wash those sinful sins away. It's a cleansing process. I've done it like 3 times. And I'm still not there yet, but it's okay. We're getting there. By renewing of the mind. Yes. Not
oh my God. I'm done.
Don't buy into me. Don't buy into me. But we thank you for joining us. See you guys next week when we start our relationship series. Don't forget. Leave us your questions. Leave us your concern, comment, and shade. All on the page. Night, guys. Bye.
Night,